What's going on, guys? So in front of you is a black Pelican box, and this box contains some very important items if you plan on towing really heavy trailers, or at least if you have a pickup truck and you plan on towing really heavy trailers. This is what I store all of my balls in. So I have several different goose balls in here. I'm going to explain to you why, and I'm also going to explain the differences between these because there are a few of them and they vary by manufacturer. So let's go over these. Let's find out which ones I prefer the most and why they're designed the way they are. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we got them all laid out now. In front of you are the 4 goose balls that I own. These 3 are the ones that I actively use, and this one right here is one that I've used a lot, but I don't use anymore, and I'll explain why. This specific one is the original one that I purchased when I got my first F450, and I was using a puck-style system. I had another goose ball prior, but it wasn't designed for a puck system. The puck system, of course, is the factory 5th wheel gooseneck prep package that I had on my 2016 Ford F450. So this specific system dropped directly in, and it's a nice system, except it's a little messy to deal with. And I'm going to go over the comparisons between these in terms of function here in a second. But I just want to let you know I started off with this one. It's rated at 30,000 pounds gross trailer weight, and it's a pretty good system. It unfortunately doesn't have much clearance over the bed. So if you all recall, whenever I went to the Reese Gooseballs as a pin box replacement on our Coachman Chaparral 5th wheel that we had, I needed a goose ball. And unfortunately, the Generation 1 Reese Gooseballs, you did not have an installation height that you could adjust. And because of that, it sat really close to the bed rails of my truck. So I ultimately ended up purchasing this Reese Goose Ball as well as this B&W Goose Ball. And we're going to talk about the differences between them in terms of function again. However, what I wanted to share with you are why I did that, and you can probably clearly see that here. The Reese Goose Ball over the Curt Goose Ball gives me an inch additional height over the bed of the truck, which increased, of course, the overhang clearance of the 5th wheel by an inch. This is a 1/2 inch, this is a 1/2 inch, this is an 1.5 inches, and this is 2.5 inches. Now, the difference between this and this, of course, is an additional inch. So this is 2.5 inches versus an 1.5 inches. And this gave me even more clearance over the bed rails. Now, it is really nice because it has some extra features built into it, and we'll discuss those in a second, but I just originally wanted to tell you why I have other goose balls. Now, this one right here was actually provided to me by Reese, and it's going to replace this Curt ball that I have, but this one is the exact same as this one, except it has that same 1/2 inch height as the Curt ball. All 4 of these are rated at the same 30,000 pounds. So they all have the same capacity in terms of the type of trailer you can haul with them. Now, let's talk about some of the functional differences between all 4 of these, because these 2, again, are going to be pretty much identical. But this one and this one are going to be different than these in terms of how they connect to the puck system on your vehicle. So, this ball right here has an interesting style latch at the top of it. You're basically going to rotate it and then you're going to flip it down. And you can see how it curves to the contour of the ball itself. Once that is dropped down, it puts a pin between these 2 bearings right here, which prevents them from retracting into the side. But once you flip this up and to the side, you can see how both the ball bearings can now retract in. So this would be your installation position, then flipping it over and down would be your latched or locked position. So this is going to be how this specific ball functions. One thing that I don't like about it is you are forcing yourself to grab the entire ball housing whenever you remove it. So you should carry gloves with you, carry a small towel, something that you can use to wipe your hands off when you're done. Because the only way to remove this is to flip this up, put it to the side, and then grab the ball housing, because you can't grab it by that because it's going to be slippery from the grease. So that's the problem. You can get pretty dirty removing this one, especially if you have a lot of grease from your coupler on it. We're going to move now to the Reese. This is my newest one. I actually haven't used it yet, and I don't really use this height, but I could run into some scenarios where it would make practical sense to use this. So this one has a different type of locking mechanism. You still have the 2 ball bearings, one on each side, but to remove this one and to lock it in place, you pop this up and you rotate it to the side like that. Once that's up, you can see both ball bearings retract in. You drop it into the center mounting area for your gooseneck hitch on the truck, and then drop it back in place, and you can see the same metal pin pushes back down and extends these ball bearings so it locks itself in place. Now what I like about this system is you don't have to grab the entire ball housing to remove it. You can simply remove it by pulling up on that. So all I have to do is pull up right here and the system's ready to come out, which is really nice. So this is a little bit less messy because, again, it's just kind of this one step to pull it out versus ever having to grab the entire ball assembly. Now, looking at the Curt again, the Curt system is really nice, but something that you have to be careful about is if you have this on the side and you've forgotten to put this down, because this has actually happened to some folks. If you lower your goose ball on top of it in this position, you can actually damage it. And by damaging it, you may not be able to secure this back into the mount whenever you figure out what's happened and you don't know why it's not locking into place. So if it's like this accidentally, or let's say it's just half in, half out in a position like this, there have been a few instances where people have jammed their ball in because this wants to slide back and they break it so it's not functional anymore. I don't think it's happened to a lot of people, and I think for the most part people don't make that mistake, but it is just something to keep in mind, and it is something to think about. Also, one thing I noticed about my Curt ball is these bearings starting to rust, which is something kind of interesting. These 3 are all manufactured overseas, whereas the B&W is manufactured in the United States. Now, I always prefer stuff that is manufactured in the US, but Reese does have a heck of a reputation. They are a great product, and I absolutely would not say that this product is any inferior simply because it is manufactured overseas. However, I do have to give it to B&W for keeping manufacturing here in the States and turning out a phenomenal product at the same time. All right, so you saw the mechanical difference here between the Curt ball and the Reese ball, right? Curt, flip to the side, drop in place, locks. Reese rotates over, drop it down, locks. The reason why I warn you about this is because this kind of blends into the top of the ball, whereas the Reese is clearly distinguishable as unlocked whenever you put it in place, and it falls into place very easily. Now, this ball, again, is identical. There's nothing different other than the fact that it sits an inch higher. That's it. So everything else about these 2 is the same except the height, and there's no point in really going over that anymore. But I carry these 2 with me, and then I carry this one. This one is significantly different in how it's designed to work, as well as some of the convenience feature built in, but it's not completely exempt from a few criticisms. So this is the B&W system. This, significantly taller, has a really cool handle on it as well. And this system, you don't have to touch the ball at all whenever you're mounting it in place. So with the B&W setup, mechanically, with the handle up, is in its removal phase. You see both of the ball bearings retracted in. If I want to put it in place and lock it, I simply drop it into the mount, lift up this handle right here, and this bends back. And you can see once it's down, it locks these balls into place. Again, there's a pin in the center that pushes these out, locks it into your puck mounting system. Now, let's talk about the positives of this versus one negative. The positive of this is the fact that I never have to touch the goose ball, so I don't have to worry about getting grease on my hands. If you have a lot of grease on your coupler, if it's, all nasty because it's been, hooked up and unhooked from trailers all the time, this is really nice because to take it off, you simply rotate the handle up, the ball bearings retract in, you pull it out, you throw it inside of your box or wherever you house it. So that makes it really convenient. What I also like about it is if you're hauling a trailer that requires a little bit more bed clearance, you have significantly more with this than the others, right? This is 2.5 inches of clearance versus 1.5 inches versus 1/2 inch with both of these. So that's also really nice. I also love the fact that it is manufactured here in the States. So that's also really nice. But, and this is my biggest complaint about this, it's very bulky. It's very bulky in the sense that with this handle down, it takes up a relatively large amount of space for what it is. So, I don't really worry about this rotating around or hitting anything, but it does take up a good amount of space. And if you know, one of the reasons I went to a goose box was to get my bed back and have space in my bed to be able to carry things around. What I realized when I use this is that I end up having to take this out. Now, it's not that big of a chore, but it does require me retracting my bed cover, going inside, pulling it out, and then putting it away. What I find with these, or at least this one and this one, is that I never have to really worry about it. I just leave it in the back. It has such a small footprint to it. They're relatively low that I just don't worry about them. I leave them in there. I'll load whatever I need to load on top of them and just keep going. So that is the biggest perk of these versus this. This is nice because, again, it doesn't take up much room compared to a fifth wheel hitch. It has a very nice handle, very convenient to retract. It's made in the USA, and it's built incredibly well. I don't have any rust or anything on this. This is by far the ball that I've used the most, and you can probably tell just by the wear and tear on the others versus this one. And it just works really well. But the fact is that all of these work really well. And some of you may prefer this type of connection, some of you may prefer this type of connection, and some of you may prefer this type of connection. I've found that my B&W is my go-to because of the fifth wheel that we had with the Reese Gooseballs. But after we sold the fifth wheel, I find myself towing more with this one. Mainly because it, again, just takes up such a smaller footprint in the back. So, big fan of pretty much all of these. I don't think I have any gripes against any of them, but I did want to show you the differences between the Curt 30,000-pound ball, the Reese 30,000-pound ball with a 1/2 inch lift, the Reese 30,000-pound ball with an 1.5 inch lift, and the B&W 30,000-pound, what they call the OEM ball, because this drops into the OEM puck system on fifth wheel equipped trucks, with a 2.5 inch height and a handle that permits you to take it out and put it back in without having to get your hands dirty on the ball. Now, would I recommend these over another? Not really. You know, it comes down to your own personal preference. It comes down to what you can find them for. This one's by far the most expensive. I think it's about $300. Now, if you get the Curt with the chain anchors inside of its plastic case, it's going to run you upwards of about $220. If you get the Reese, they give you a bag, which is essentially a bag like this to house everything in, and this kit's going to cost you about $250. And if you get the B&W, it comes with a case, and it comes with these really, really nice chain anchors. These are the ones that I use regardless of which goose ball I use, because these things are simply awesome. You simply have it open like this, drop it into the puck system, you rotate the top in place like this, like that, drop it down, and it's locked in. Very cool. These have a lot of weight to them, and when you compare them to the Reese, you can see just how much larger they are. Now, they are a little bulkier, so just keep that in mind. The Reese have a lower footprint design to them, which I do like, but I usually don't care. These just look really cool in the truck. Anyways, guys, I'll put a link in the description to all of these if you're interested in them. They're definitely functional. They definitely handle the weight. They give you 3 separate heights, which is very important to a lot of people. And the coupling system is a little bit different on each one of these. But I want to hear your opinion and which one you use. Please leave a comment below. I'd love to know. Anyways, guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.